Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Inky Thoughts podcast. Today, I'm very excited because I get to enjoy and continue one of my favorite sub-series of the podcast, Beyond the Gate. And today, I have my first female black artist on here. I just want to throw it in there immediately in case some people are wondering, why does he have this person on here? But not only is she very well experienced and an incredible artist in her own right, she's also a mental health coach, which we're also going to bit into, I hope, today, because as we all know, tattooing and mental health, not exactly unrelated, especially not when we think about gatekeeping, gender identity, ethnic identity, and all this stuff. But before I ramble on too much, as I always tend to do, I will throw it to CeeJ to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name is CeeJ. Everyone, my Instagram handle is CeeJ the Artist. Everyone knows me as CeeJ the Artist, but it's CeeJ for short. I have been tattooing for 10 years now. I am a cover-up specialist, but I pretty much tattoo just about everything, everyone. I also have a mental health background. I have a master's degree in counselor education, bachelor's degree in psychology. And I currently am working towards creating tattoo therapy as an actual practice by combining tattoo sessions and therapy sessions because I feel like as you said the industries intersect in more ways than we possibly are considering. So that's just a little bit about me.
Well, I mean, jumping immediately into the tattoo therapy, actually, because that fascinates me a lot. I'm very biased, as you may know from our conversation before we started. Um, But there is, already some research to suggest how positively beneficial tattoos can be to mental health and I always throw this caveat in, done right. And done right is something we can get into how that is done. But, a lot of tattooing can really benefit people mentally when done in the right way. And we've seen, at least in psychology, which, as you now explained, is one of your fields, there has been some case studies done about cutting and self-harm where people have tattooed an area or even not even the exact area they cut in, but just an area of the body, and they immediately stop having the same urges to harm themselves.
That was funny enough, and I hate to be so transparent off the rip, but that was kind of my backstory. I was kind of in a very low place, low self-esteem. I was actually a previous cutter myself. So part of tattooing was actually trying to cover it up. But
Mhm.
in that, you kind of, it becomes a little bit more deeper, right?
Oh
It's like,
yes.
it's more than just, I think for many of my clients and not just myself, getting a tattoo isn't just about the aesthetics alone or just looking good naked. I think it's a
It's a
powerful way.
bonus.
Yeah, I think it's a, I think it's a powerful way to reclaim your identity, to heal
Mm.
from past trauma, and to celebrate your journey. Most of my clients tend to come to me with stories and emotions that they often are ready to express outwardly. And being a counselor allows me to make space to help them process that in a compassionate and non-judgmental way. Um, so that's what actually gave me the idea of tattoo
Yeah.
therapy, because I see that a lot of my clients and when you connect with people, when you actually connect with people, I make it a point to talk to my clients and get to know them, because I feel like that is the underlying foundation of longevity is connection, right?
Mm.
And so I like to get to know them and get to know their story. And even with the designs that I create, I like it to be catered to them and what in their
Mm.
journey. So I was thinking like, okay, what if your tattoo artist was your therapist? Because a lot of people look at tattoos as therapy anyway, right? So, but I feel like it's kind of like putting a band-aid on something that needs surgery. Like you need to go deeper. We need, we need, let's go deep. We need to go deeper than that. So let's really unpack this. Let's really
Mm.
unpack what's going on. What brought you here today? Because most of the times I find that most of my clients are going through something. They are processing something, whether it's emotional loss, physical loss, they're commemorating something, they're memorializing someone. There's so many layers to it. It's deeper than just aesthetics.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I just noticed how tattoos can be transformative for mental health and self-identity, especially when done thoughtfully.
Mm.
And so I just noticed how the two fields really do sharpen each other for me.
Yeah.
So with tattooing, it allows me to channel like my counseling skills in a creative way.
Mm.
But with like my counseling background and knowledge, it allows me to add depth and meaning and thoughtfulness behind each tattoo I create. So I'm grateful to be able to combine the two and just bring that unique practice or that unique blend into my practice.
Well, I mean, to bite into one of the things you said, for example, which is very popular in feminist theory regarding tattoos back, even starting a couple of decades ago, the whole idea of reclaiming. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, to be honest, but there's a lot to say about that. Because even with what I would call, for lack of a better term, because I don't think any tattoo actually is, but even with tattoos without meaning, so to speak, or a big story behind them, they can still be a way of reclaiming or indeed claiming identity. And I think that's very
Absolutely,
correct.
absolutely.
So I think
I,
you're hitting the nail on the head there, first of all.
I will also say for me too, I have, I think with having parents that are very militant and very
Mm,
like, I have a father that's in law enforcement. So it's, you know, being an artist or being a tattoo artist isn't really like idealistic for their child as a career, you know?
mm.
Um, but it's just something that I've always been passionate about. It's always something that really spoke to me. So I really had to rebel a lot and really
Mm,
like buck the system to be able to just do what I'm passionate about. And then over time, my parents realized like, damn, like this is actually like we probably should have invested in this more. Like now that we're realizing how beneficial it's been and how successful it's been for you. Like I wouldn't even be in Atlanta right now if it weren't for tattooing.
mm.
So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the whole experience.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
a little more than grateful, I would say, ambitious and quite content as well, within that, I would say. But,
Absolutely.
uh, going a bit into it, when did you start getting tattoos?
My first tattoo was when I was 15. I got, I was like in this crackhead house. It was in South Carolina. I was like in this crackhead's house. I got some Chinese symbols on my spine
Jesus.
because I thought it was so cool. I saw a homegirl of mine at the time that had a tattoo, and she was like around the same age as me. I'm like, "Oh." And when you get it, it was something about it, like just having a tattoo
Mm,
at that age. It was like a stamp on adulthood, like, like, oh, well, I'm in a class of my own or whatever. But it really didn't start coming to a head and taking off until I was in college. And, you're navigating life for
mm,
real. Like you're away from your parents. This is your first real just plunge into adulthood. So I'm going through heartbreak. I'm going through financial hardship. I'm going through shit I've never dealt with ever in my fucking
mm,
life. And through that, tattooing has really been like, it has saved my life in so many ways. Like I can say like when I got into tattooing, which was like at the end of 2014. I was like in getting into like my master's program, didn't really know what I wanted to do, all the things. It just kind of fell into my lap. And I would say like that was the first time for me that I actually felt like purpose. Like I felt it was so magnetic. Like I could not, I just wanted to learn more. I wanted to be in the shop every day. And that was just on top of having working 8 hours a day and being a full-time student. I'm like, well, I'll make time for this because I want to do this. And the only way I'm going
mm,
to do this is by being there and learning as much as I can, even though I was learning from men that were still learning themselves.
mm,
I took that and I just ran with it and I just made it work. And then we got into the tattoo convention circuits and everything just started. I'm all about just being a better artist and being a student of my craft in any way
mm.
possible. So I mean, my passion just grew, and 10 years later, I don't know if I rambled or if I even answered your question, but yeah.
As an expert rambler, I do not mind.
Okay.
I think there's beauty to rambling, and there's also quite a bit of honesty in rambling. But I would say I am quite curious because I imagine, since you talk about learning for people that were learning themselves, was that because it was difficult to get an apprenticeship? Did you sort of had to resort to that?
It was actually it was very difficult. I would say the biggest challenge was finding someone to take me seriously, and it didn't require me to degrade or demean myself in the process.
Mm,
Because a lot of the times, like I wasn't able to get an apprenticeship because some of these men wanted to exchange like tattoo knowledge for like sex, or they
Yes.
expected me to like just pop a little coochie for a little bit of, for a machine or something. Or
Whew.
so it took a while to actually find somebody that was willing to, and it just happened to be my one of my tattoo artists. I came to him
Mm,
when I got like half of his sleeve done, and then there was like a point in my career where I was just trying to figure out how to take my artwork to the next level, because all I
mm.
was doing was like painting and doing commission pieces and painting, customizing graduation caps and things like that. But I'm in a college town. College kids are not trying to spend money on art. So it was like maybe for the next 5 months, 20 people might have walked up to me randomly and said, "Have you ever considered tattooing? You should
Mm.
be have you ever thought about being a tattoo artist?" And I feel like that is the closest thing to God just reaching down and just passing me the fucking machine. Like, here, this is you. This is what it is right here. And it was absolutely insane. But
Mm.
through that, but even with securing the apprenticeship, it was just difficult because a lot of in the times that I came up in tattooing, there was like that old school mindset that like, oh, I gotta treat you like shit. It's like
Mm.
it's a rite of passage, you know what I'm
Yeah, it's
saying? To
so
be treated
annoying.
like shit and to be run through the dirt or to be dragged through the mud, and
Mm.
you're showing how bad you want to be a part of this industry. This is just a rite of passage. Um, so when I got into the space, that shit stopped with me. I'm the
Yeah.
one I called me the generational curse breaker, because I don't that shit ended. I'm like, okay,
Well,
so
I
there was
was
a lot
just
of argument.
sociologist. You don't need to prove you're there if you've sorted out and free of without anybody to pay your way into it or anything like that, doing it out of your own pocket. I think that proves enough already. And if you're there making time for
I'm
it
here all the
besides
time.
studying,
I'm cleaning the shop. I'm drawing. I'm showing you that I really want to be a part of this. So the extra rites of passage are not fucking necessary. Okay. So it was a lot of fighting. It was a lot of like I've literally had one of my shop owners try to fight me, a man, like twice. Like literally, like
Jeez.
just trying to puff out his chest, because when you're eager to learn, you're almost willing to go through and deal with and
Mm,
endure just about any fucking thing, because I
mm,
just really want to learn, you know what I'm saying? And this is the first chance I'm actually getting, so I'm not gonna fuck it up. So just a lot of that was just having to deal with being put in my place, or just knowing that I'm here and they're here. But with me busting my ass, and and I'm coming up with ideas, we're rebranding the shop. I came up with my first shop I was at for 7 years, and I helped completely rebrand the shop. I came up with the
mm.
shop name. We came up with specials. We had celebrities come in and do like shit. We were the shop when I was in that bitch. Okay. I mean, they're probably still the shop. Love y'all.
Mm,
Probably still the shop. But like that is the kind of energy I want to bring. That's the
mm.
kind of energy I always bring into the spaces I'm in. It's like,
Yeah.
let's elevate. Like, why are we doing this if we're not going to take it as far as we can possibly take it? But also not in just like money or financially, but skill and also quality, like how you
Mm,
treat people, your customer service, things like that. I feel like all of that matters, presentation, all the shit.
mm,
So, but most of the challenges that I've encountered being a Black woman in the space has mostly been it's really I can really describe it as navigating a field that often undermines, underestimates, and misrepresents Black talent, while
mm,
also having to prove both your skill and your right to belong. So I'm constantly having to challenge a system that wasn't necessarily built with me in mind, or Black women, or shit, Black people. Um,
mm,
so some of the obstacles I've encountered include like financial exploitation, like people
mm.
just greedy shop owners taking advantage of of an eager young tattooer just happy to fucking be there type shit.
Yeah, because
Um,
they'll always have the mentality of like, where else are you gonna go? And I would
yeah,
imagine, especially because they're not as weirdly as it can be said, they're not stupid. They know exactly what troubles you might face as a young black woman wanting to learn to tattoo. So they'll probably feel they already know that they're in the power seat. They already know that they're in the driver's seat in that engagement and the power level, the balance is skewed to their favor. So they're gonna be where you're gonna go. I imagine. I mean, I can't speak from personal experience here, but that's what I would guess as a sociologist. They're gonna be
feel trapped. You
using that.
absolutely feel trapped. You feel like you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like you don't really know what to do. And even like there's just so just even me just navigating my own personal life journey and trying to discover who I am and find myself. Like I've been realizing that I've had to make myself more masculine
Mm,
to in these spaces where I'm now having a hard time to like connecting with my femininity. I'm just so
mm.
like, mm. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
learn how to soften up. And
Well,
it's really hard when I work in an industry where I have to
mm,
be kind of like I have to be rough and like kind of like forward facing, when
yeah.
I'm presenting myself to people.
Uh,
So people don't get the wrong idea about me. So I'm not bullied. So I'm not sexually harassed. And there's it there's so many layers to it to unpack.
yeah, cool.
Um,
I'm curious though. It's sort of I would say, for lack of a better analogy, the camouflaging of your gender identity, so to speak. Is that sort of you at least had that variable less to contend with? Like, was that sort of you? Okay, I'm already struggling because they want to disadvantage me because I'm a young black artist and I want to get into this industry that's mainly dominated by white men. So now at least maybe I can erase the that they also discourage me because I'm a woman part. Like,
yeah, you try not to, I really try not to go into it with that because I feel like when you
mm,
do, you see it or you
yeah,
see it more.
yeah,
I try to
yeah.
just, I kind of just observe. I'll
Yeah.
see what's going on. So, one time is a coincidence, two times is a pattern. It's like
Mm,
so it's like okay, well, I'll give you an example. There'll be times where I'm voicing a grievance. And
yeah.
I've been the only woman in most of my shops. And they're all men for the most part. And instead of it just being like, okay, this is a problem that needs to be addressed, it's
Mm,
kind of just like dismissed as like, oh, well,
oh,
you're
she's just like,
emotional. You're
yeah.
being sensitive. You're being emotional. You need to have thicker skin, whatever, which in turn, the problem doesn't get addressed.
Yeah.
So it continues to persist and things get worse. And now I'm giving you this very explosive response. And I'm giving you like all of this anger and resentment because I've been vocalizing to you that this is a
Well, it
fucking
builds up. It
yeah,
builds
I've
up
been
when
telling you
ignored. You know?
that this is a problem. And instead of you addressing the problem because of whatever reason,
Mm.
and I can't even begin to jump into the heads of these people,
No, no,
but
no.
it's just
But speaking a
like,
bit to your background in psychology, could it be that it's because of they're blind to their own privilege, so they don't even know how to notice the struggles you might be facing,
I think
or
oftentimes,
validate them at least. Like, because you might voice a concern, for example, this is completely hypothetical. I'm just try and validate what is being said here. I think it's being said. So do correct me if I'm wrong, CJ. But um,
you've been on the
but for
money.
example,
You've been on the money.
let's say a client sexually harassed you, and you brought that up to the guys in the shop, and they might be there saying, "Oh, come on, he was just flirting with you," like because they don't know from their position as men that he might have gone too far.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. It's a lot of times too, I think I have to
Um, I, I,
consider.
I imagine
Oh
the
no.
same thing goes with, sorry, just before, I imagine the same thing goes with being a black young artist that there might be times where you feel like, hey, that guy kind of was a bit racist towards me, and the others, because they might not be black themselves, would be like, come on, he's just joking around, because that's often how it disguises and how it gets excused these things. So like, don't rock the boat, that guy's just kidding, whatever, you know.
Yeah, it was interesting. Me and a friend, she tattoos in Detroit. She's a black woman as well. She's like one of the best tattoo artists in Detroit. And we went to a convention in LA just to network, but also pick up some game and see what we can learn and get inspired and things like that. But it was like as soon as we walked in, like we were like you could tell it was just like what the fuck? Like did
Jeez,
they make a wrong turn somewhere? Like, what the fuck are they doing here? Like,
like you've walked into a Tarantino movie.
yeah, it was. And granted, there were like a few black artists like sprinkled in
Yeah.
here and there. But even just the canvases weren't black. I'm looking
Mm.
at like the tattoo competitions and we're judging all these canvases, and I don't even see. And as somebody that specializes, and I'm in Atlanta. Most of my clients are Black.
Mm.
Like I probably tattoo one white person, two white people a month, like that. Honestly, because that's just where I'm at. That's my demographic. But like that, like seeing the work is like phenomenal. It is
Mm.
inspiring, but it's also like this wouldn't translate the same on, melanated skin. So I would
Mm.
rather see like some pieces that are also catered to my
Mm.
melanated clients,
But I think that's why we need these conventions, because some people get confused. They're like, why do we need a Black run convention? Why do we need a Black artist focus on it? Because in the
It's like
regular
they make it
spaces,
seem like,
there's no focus on it. There's not enough attention on it. There's not enough recognition or respect or anything. So I
it's,
very much agree with the people, for example, that made. I think it's a convention. Please do correct me if I got it wrong. I
yeah,
mainly followed
yeah.
the Instagram, but the Black Tattoo Experience. I think it's a conference or a convention of some kind. And like, whether it's good or not, I don't know. I won't go. I'm not gonna, never gonna go to it because it's in the States. But I think at least the fact of having spaces that are created with more attention in mind for the for marginalized groups is important.
Am I
Yes, at the
allowed to
back of the class. Yes.
am I allowed to speak freely?
What?
Am I allowed to speak freely?
Yeah, of course.
Even if my experiences may be not so great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, because I have my thoughts about the Black tattoos.
I mean, I don't know if it's a good event or not, but I'm just saying, at
Just
least.
as a black woman, I have my thoughts
Okay.
of the Black tattoo experience because I also got banned from there. But
But I hope you get my point though.
absolutely get it.
That these
Absolutely,
spaces and events are needed.
we need
I can't speak because I
we
haven't
need
been to it whether they're well done, some of them, but they need to be there.
we need safe spaces. You're not saying anything wrong. We need safe spaces.
Mm.
Absolutely. We need spaces to be able to address these issues, to come together to support each other. Like
Mm.
these things are important. My issue with the Black tattoo experience is that I think it's a great idea. I think the concept of what they're trying to do is good, but the execution is off. Like, cause
Mm.
I went to one of them, and the way it's promoted and the what it is when you get it is kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I kind of just wanted to get like I kind of wanted to get some like tattoo knowledge, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I want to know like what voltage you use for melanated skin and why. Like, if this is I'm thinking this is like we're gonna maybe have some type of intro course or a brush up course or a refresher course on tattooing melanated skin or whatever, but it's kind of like we're listening to like different artists like personal experience of things that worked for them or it's like a fucking dick jerking contest of like, oh yeah, I have these cars, I have these houses, I have this.
Ah, you see that I wouldn't like either.
Or you're listening to men tell women how they should present themselves in the industry and things like
Oy.
that. But also too, like we're listening to people who are accomplished, like tattoo wise, but they don't have any fucking background in anything. Like they're not certified in nothing. You know what I'm saying? These are just
Mm.
opinions. These are just things that are rooted in personal experience and opinion. And I
Mm.
would like to hear more. Like I was arguing with one of the speakers because he was basically telling women about like how, or just telling people how mental health don't really fucking matter. Like when it comes to being a
Ah.
tattoo, like kind of just glorifying this like grind culture, grind hard
Mm.
culture or
That's
whatever.
not
And it's
good.
like,
That's not good.
no. I'm like, no, that is awful advice. Like that is why so many tattoo artists are burnt out now. That's why so many people are fucking quitting. People are getting discouraged along the way. It's like you have to, there has to be some level of like, we have to vet the speakers and there has to be a certain level of
You would
expertise.
have liked people, for example, if somebody had a background in psychology or sociology or therapy or anything like that, to rather
Like
speak on
you
this.
do that, but you also do tattoos. So you can also
Like for example, how in some conventions in the UK they sometimes have my friend Matt Lotter, who's a art historian but also a tattoo historian, talk on tattoo history. But that's also the thing he does for a living at a university as a professor, researches tattoo history. So
that makes sense. Yes,
despite how
I
as he
would
would
go to
also
that.
argue, a lot of
I
people
would go to that.
exactly. Like, but despite how he would also argue, some people that do it as a hobby also gather a lot of history together. His level of understanding it, because of the training he's had, will still be at a whole other level than somebody who's just a hobbyist might.
Correct. Correct. So that was kind of my, and then it was very, so I went to one of the felicitators. Oh, good. One of the
Seminars,
people who throwing the fucking event. Okay.
yeah.
And
Oh,
I was,
facilitators.
yes, just to give feedback or whatever. And I was just like, and I was also with like a young tattooer who was kind of
Yeah,
new, but was just excited to be there in the room with other Black tattoo artists. Like some people drove in from other places, and the fucking ticket price was like $500. I got in for free, because I got a code, because I got a promo code because I'm that girl and I got a promo code. And so I gave my feedback and I was just like, this is kind of expensive for like new tattoo. If I'm new and I'm getting into the game, like this is
yeah,
the
and they
ticket
might
price.
need it more. I mean, they definitely need it more. Like they
The
need the
ticket prices
training.
are ridiculous, and I'm not really getting that experience from y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're eating fucking apples and fruit and pizzas and shit on fucking plastic chairs, and I
Jeez.
feel like my $500 to get me something a little further type shit.
Mm.
Like so, it was just like I'm talking to him about, hey, this is a little, expensive or whatever, or two things I brought up. It was like expensive. And he said, well, if you can't afford to be here, you can't afford to be here. And if you can't afford to be here, you can't afford to not be here either. And I was like, okay, well, that was a fancy way of calling me broke. And then I was just like, what was that about? And
Oh, I'm
then
sorry,
I was just
CJ. That
like,
was just greatly like the punchline to that point was just fantastic.
the fuck? Yeah, I'm full of those.
Sorry.
And another part of that was like, okay, so they had like a really great tattoo artist that
Yeah.
we all like in the industry just revere and respect. He was doing a little seminar behind everybody. It was like it was like everybody was sitting here listening to the speakers, but he was in the back doing a seminar. That's the shit we want to see. Okay.
Mm.
And instead they're like forcing us to like go sit down and listen to people
That's a,
ramble about whatever the fuck
that's
they're
a weird
talking
way to
about.
go about an event.
It's like I also don't want
You
to fucking
can't
listen.
force people. Like I've been to
Yeah,
conferences as an academic. You don't force people to go to the lectures or the seminars. You just say, hey, this is what's going on. Go to the ones you find interesting.
participate or whatever. So it
Like
was
we
that.
ended up with, I went to one with Matt Lodderwhite's where I first met him in person, where it was all people that researched tattoos within different social science fields. And he was history, I was sociology, a lot of people were psychologists over there. But people, for what, if they didn't want to go to a certain lecture, they would just stand there talking and networking and, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
like
get that.
freedom.
Well,
There's a certain level of freedom there. So I was expressing that to him, like
yeah.
how a lot of us, if you heavily advertise the seminar
Mm.
on Instagram or whatever, we're here to see the fucking seminar, and
But
you're
to bring us
forcing.
back to the point, CJ,
Uh-huh.
so we don't
Yeah.
just end up reviewing
Oh
my
yeah.
tattoo experience.
Yeah.
Sorry,
But but
but
but it was
the
just
space
like
is needed.
to just really wrap it up. It just felt
Yeah,
like
sorry.
was it was financial exploitation. That was just a form of financial exploitation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like there's some people who are really passionate about this that
Mm.
really want to learn and genuinely want to be a part of this industry.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's people that are also preying on that. There's
Mm.
also people that are counting on that and
Mm.
they're taking advantage of a lot of people in those spaces. But
Mm.
so there's a lot of financial exploitation, there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of sexual harassment, there's a lot of having to just really get outside of yourself, I guess,
Mm.
to exist in this industry or just adapt to a whole nother way of being.
But it's the
So
same impression I
that just
got from talking to, as you know, when I talked to Albert Jackson, for example, and talked to
love
Melvin,
him.
both of those cases as well. They've had quite fortunate apprenticeships. Especially Melvin is very open about. He was quite lucky with where he apprenticed and had a good apprenticeship in that. But even he talked about how he heard from others that it's not necessarily in a white shop they're going to be discriminated. It's also in black ones where, exactly because of what you talk about, there's so few who's going to give them that apprenticeship. So they just treat them like shit because they can, in a way, to put it bluntly, which is the horrible thing because it sort of exacerbates the problem. There's no safe haven, so to speak, to go to I imagine, as a young black tattoo artist, because the white guys are not going to understand you and they're going to possibly exploit you. And even the black people who might understand more of your cultural background and context and how to navigate those issues as they feel them themselves, they might still exploit you as an artist and as a young person, or as a woman, or as a queer person, because they're like, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go learning to do black skin? Because
And they're
we're
actually
doing it
hoping
here.
you're not educated. They're hoping you're not educated and you don't know better. Because if you do the once you do the numbers, like I used to keep
Mm.
tabs of,
Yeah.
how much money I make in certain shops, and I'm like, well, shit, I'm your number one earner. I'm making you a lot of money.
Mm.
So there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm working on a percentage, but I cannot pay my bills financially. Like
Mm.
I'm struggling. So I can, with the clientele I'm getting, I can shift to a booth rent, right? So I've expressed to one of my shop owners, like, hey, I want to transition to a booth rent because I can't financially, you say we're a family and all this shit, I cannot sustain. You're comfortable. Y'all are comfortable. I am not. Y'all have spousal support. I do not. I don't have any family here. Like this is just me,
Yeah.
myself, and I. And it was like, oh well, I don't think a booth rent is sustainable for you. And
Jeez.
and I was like, oh okay. And then we're going back and forth about that because I'm like, how the fuck is that the case? Especially
Like,
when I
where's
make
your math? How do you get to this? Like,
look at this.
here's mine. Where's
Here's my
yours?
yeah. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna charge you this ridiculous amount then. I'm gonna charge you like $400 a week and that's more than the fucking rent I pay
Yeah.
in my apartment. You know what I'm saying? It just if you added it up, if you did the numbers, it just didn't make sense for the space and the shit I was
No,
getting.
it
It
was
just
definitely because he felt, okay, where the fuck is she gonna go? She's a young black work female artist. Nobody else. I can push this on her. Like that.
no.
That's at least the impression I'm getting from what you're telling me. That it was very much like, hey, I can tell you this ridiculous price for this because what are you gonna do about it?
Like I'm like, fuck no. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's crazy, because I know
Yeah.
better. So then like the next day, I'm talking to the assistant or the manager
Yeah.
of the shop, and I'm like, hey, can you just give me my inquiries from now on? I'm just gonna book my own clients because you're saying that I can't y'all are saying I can't sustain this and that.
Mm.
Like the reason why my booking is the way it is because y'all are booking my appointments. If I was doing my own, y'all won't let me talk to my clients. Y'all want just us to communicate with the clients at the session, and that's not really how I operate. I like to be hands-on with the entire fucking process of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, just hand me my inquiries and stuff. And they're like, oh, so you're agreeing to whatever the shop owner is proposing. I'm like, fuck no. Y'all are trying to scam me, especially when I know
Yeah.
that the rent it costs this much, which is less than what you're asking me to pay more than the rent. And you're not doing that for anybody else that's working in this fucking shop. There's no expectation. Like you're pushing the good workers, but you're not pushing the poor workers. You know what I'm saying? Like, so no, I'm not doing that. And
It's
then I
all
got fired.
becoming almost like a corporate work in that way. It's like, oh, you did really well. Well, here's some extra work for no pay. Like,
Oh, we believe in you. So
ironically, that's what you try to avoid when you become a tattoo artist or anything similar to it, and then you find these practices going on sometimes, which is
and then I find too
really
that a lot
frustrating
of
about.
times, like a lot of shop owners are trying to switch to like this corporate style of
Yeah,
like operating when it comes to tattoos, and I get that in ways of like having benefits and having like insurance and
yeah.
shit. But we kind of did
That I
tattoo,
get, but that doesn't mean
kind
you
of did
have to
tattooing
run
to
the
be tattoo
business
artists.
like it's a corporate business. That just means,
We would
yeah,
have just applied for that fucking job at the government or whatever. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like we did this to have that freedom to be able
I
to set
mean,
our own
to
schedules.
put it in a weird Danish saying in English, just because you bought a coffee doesn't mean you need a cake as well. You can tailor it. That's the beauty of your industry in a way.
Absolutely. That's why we decided
But
to get into
I
it.
do,
So
I do correct me, but I do feel like when I look at when I think about what I've seen around in the social media space, I do feel like there are more of these black male tattoo artists sometimes at times that are like trying to sell you all these quick fix tips and stuff like that, and like how to do these and run the business. There are also some that are doing absolutely great, weirdly, especially in the anime tattoo space. I've seen some black artists that are incredible at teaching people stuff and just helping out around them. But also you tend to almost feel like sometimes you tend to see more. What's the English word for it? Bribers? Is that the word? Like trying to quickly like, hey, come here, pay me this, and I'll quickly teach you this one to one, trick? Like, I don't
Oh,
know. Like,
I had a shop owner that had a tattoo school, and the
okay.
tuition was like $5,000+ for like 6 months. You come in for like 3 days for like 2 hours, and you're like drawing lines on paper, and you're tattooing fake skin, and but you passing this school doesn't really guarantee you admission into a
Mm.
tattoo shop. It
Especially not with
doesn't
how the cultural climate is around tattoo schools at the moment. I mean, it's yeah.
so with gatekeeping, I'm on the fence. I feel like too much of anything is bad, but there has to be a level of
I've
some
always
level of
I,
gatekeeping
I do
because
get that. Skill wise, I do get that.
yeah,
I do
absolutely.
get it when it comes to how you want to make your way in the industry in a way. I don't get it when it comes to gender, ethnicity, sexuality, anything like that,
Yeah, absolutely.
or even artistic talent to some extent, because artistic expression is also very subjective. But I do
Yeah.
get it when it comes to, hey, you gotta learn these things. You gotta learn customer service. You gotta learn all these different things. You gotta learn how to set up, how to interact, how to get clients, and there's some way to go about that. And I
Yeah.
do get, for example, I spoke to an artist from France about this way back last year for the podcast. And one thing I had to agree with her on, I do get for some get when you gatekeep people that just hobbyist tattoo. They just
Yeah.
get into it for a year or two and then they move on with their
I feel like it's so sacred.
HR or graphic design degree or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Instead
yeah,
of it, because for a lot of people, you included, and most I know that are great and really good artists, it's a lifestyle as much as it's a profession, and there
absolutely.
needs to be some acknowledgement of that.
Like as much as I complain, I love it because I literally live, breathe, eat shit tattoos. Like
Mm.
I can't get
Yeah.
around it. I'm talking about it all the time. I'm at home, I'm drawing, I'm painting, I'm doing things that are tattoo related.
Yeah.
I'm doing things that are centered around art because I'm passionate about that. Like I do tattoos for free sometimes just because I want to work on certain things and I want to get better with just being a better artist.
Tall ginger man from Denmark. Is that one of the certain things? No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nah,
Listen,
I'm joking.
absolutely.
I'm
But
not gonna sit here and talk myself into a free tattoo on the podcast.
yeah, you're always welcome. You're always welcome. Yeah, you get a free tattoo from me today.
No, but I
Um,
get what you mean. Like you're very, very passionate about this, which I think almost most, if not everyone, would be very clear listening to this or watching your own or looking at your Instagram or your other socials and watching what you do. But I will also say, because we talked about a lot of the struggles that have been throughout your British and what you see going on with wrong presses. But also, it does seem like that it is moving in a very positive way, both the tattooing in general, but also I would say for lack of a better term, and do give me a better one if you know one, CJ, the black tattoo scene as well is moving in a very positive direction too. I would say.
I I think it's starting to because I
Mm.
think we're starting to advocate more for ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're also starting to speak on our experiences rather than just kind of like dealing with it in house or not really, or just kind of dealing with it privately. Um, I mean, although I will say it is loosening, like the barriers and the obstacles, all of that is loosening up, but they very much still exist because it's
Yeah.
very hard, for a lot of Black women to
Mm.
find, like, to receive proper training in a safe and warm,
Oh yeah.
friendly environment. That's why you'll find a lot of tattoo artists. I mean, speaking to Black women specifically and myself, like, are in private studio spaces
Mm.
because we're not really able to find spaces where we can just kind of exist and we can just kind of be, and we don't have to, like, that we don't have to deal with the preconceived notions that because I'm a woman I have it easier, not because I busted my ass to get to this point, or when in fact being a woman makes it kind of difficult
I
most times.
always hated that double standard, because on one hand they stand there, bust your balls harder because you're a woman, but then when you get out on the other side of that, they go and
Too
say,
easy
"Oh,
for
you
you.
had it easy. They probably just liked you. Just pretty, or you fucked your way into." Like it's a you can't
So
hate
easy.
both things at the same time.
Yeah,
Like, but
doesn't make sense.
as much as sometimes two things can be true at the same time, in this
Those things.
case they are opposing forces that can't be true at the same time. Like what the fuck?
They're going this way. Yeah, that it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
And I always felt that was so weird because you meet people when you've been in the industry for a while, and you'll meet young women that are trying to become stewardess, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, no, I really get a lot of harassment for being a woman." Then you meet them when they're accomplished later on, and they get harassed for being a woman because oh, you had it easy, you
But
just
I'm not
probably
even gonna
sailed through
lie.
the. It's
So there's another
shit,
side of
man.
it, but there's another side of it too, where like,
Yeah.
some black women turn into what the black men turned into, and they
Mm.
become bullies. You know what I'm saying? And they then pass on that trauma to the newer to the next generation of artists or whatever. So it's there's so many, there's so many nuances that you have to be aware of if
Mm.
you want to stay fucking sane in this industry. But if you
I
want to
mean,
also be a change maker, you definitely have to
as a
be
sociologist, I would argue for the point of who is really sane in this two world, but I get what you mean.
absolutely. So I mean, so all of this really inspired me. Me and I have a partner, Jane. She's a
Mm.
black female tattoo artist in Atlanta, and we created this collective called the Safe Space. And SPACE is an acronym for Sisterhood of Professional African American Creative Entrepreneurs.
Oh,
Because
nice.
we didn't want to, because some of us are not just tattoo artists, and I don't want us to feel like we have to be limited to just that. You can be whatever the fuck you want to be.
Yeah.
Be all the things within reason. But the goal is to basically foster a sisterhood, a powerful network of Black women who are making their mark not only as tattoo artists but creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So we believe that through community, collaboration, and empowerment, we can change the landscape of the tattoo industry and build businesses that reflect our talent, not only our talent, but our culture and our voices. So we're doing things like providing like mentorship, linking up a seasoned tattoo artist with a newer tattoo artist to not
Nice.
like a apprenticeship type thing, but just kind
No,
of
but
like
like in a mentoring role, but they can contact them for some advice, or if they might have had an
a
issue. How do I deal with
portfolio
this?
review. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I get
portfolio
that. That's really
review.
nice. Very helpful.
So things like that, but also like we're having like I just had me and her just had an event called Tat and Chat where it was like a creative
Ah,
social combined with open panel discussion where we're just kind of touching base on what we want the safe space to be, but also like the issues that kind of brought us into creating the safe space.
mm,
So the goal is really to provide just emotional, mental, professional, creative. I mean, we're gonna say financial for the future. You got to think globally, build locally. So we're trying to provide that support to Black women
yeah,
in the industry because we absolutely need it, and we're in the hopes
yeah.
of this to branch off and be something even bigger. So like, if
But I
graphic
mean,
designers need their own little
yeah.
sector, because
But I love
I know
that.
it's not
I love
just a
that.
challenge. It's not just a challenge that we face as tattoo
No.
artists, but it's just
But
being
I,
a
but
creative.
I think you're right. I mean, for lack of a better way of saying it, the black women do need it because there's a lot more adversity going towards. I mean, even Melvin talked about this in the episode I had with him, where he said his dream is one day to help a black woman through an apprenticeship and they become an accomplished artist, which I think is great of him. It's because there's also a need for people outside of the black female experience that also recognize this, and that's the ultimate
We need
goal of any
allies.
marginalized
We
group
need allies.
to create more allies. So I'm just sorry to muscle that in there. I just love it, that at least as you see it, there are people like Oba and Melvin that are very aware of this and also
I
have their own, they're also part of marginalized groups to say the least and have their
absolutely.
struggles, but they also recognize privileges they might have as men and then what adversity women might face in that regard and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And more people are feeling more comfortable to do that. So that's,
Yeah.
I do feel like the landscape is changing a little bit more where we're seeing more Black tattoo
Mhm.
artists. We're seeing more people educate, not even just Black tattoo artists, but we're having white tattoo artists just
Yeah.
kind of
There's
educate
just
people.
more that want to educate themselves in how to tattoo other skin tones than this. Because I mean, let's be honest, I'm see-through. You can see the tattoos on my ribs when I put my arm down. Like,
Because I've also been taught that like if you're proficient on melanated skin, you can pretty much tattoo anybody.
I
But
mean,
if you're proficient on non-melanated skin, that's not guaranteed that you're going to
no.
be able to be proficient with.
I like to compare it to carpentry in a weird way because you might know how to work with one type of wood, but that doesn't mean it. But working with another type of wood is just learning how that compares. Like it's learning how what do I need to fine tune to then work with that type? You might be used to working with ash, then you work with mahogany. It's a different type of wood. You can still make a table, but you need to know how, but it will look different, and you would need to know how do I make it look right, how to do it correct. No.
Right. Right.
Sorry,
Right.
that was clumsy. That was
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. I completely understood what the heck. Like, I get. I'm here. We're here. I
Thank
get it.
you. But
Perfectly.
also, one thing I've noticed, which I really like about, as you say, that there is moving in positive direction, is I think we're seeing a lot more creativity being influxed in through new cultural experiences that get mixed into the tattoo world, whether it's new queer tattoos, new tattoos by women, or indeed black cultural tattoos, which we see, like we talked about before the interview, the Black Americana Aaron does, and Oba's
Yeah,
version of that, and Melvin's manga inspired by black culture. Like, I just love seeing all this new creativity that diversity brings into a creative space, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's just very refreshing to see, especially when I have a lot of experiences with my clients. Again, most of my clients are Black. And a lot of them are just saying that they didn't feel like they could get tattoos, or they've
Mm.
been
Yeah, I've
discouraged
heard that so many
of
times
just
from black people that are
visiting.
like, I
Yeah, they
can't.
just yeah, they can't. And I also think that misconception is rooted in inexperience and racism.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
this is
to put it
experience.
to put it very simply, I agree. Like that, there's.
Yeah.
I once had a person blatantly say when I posted about it was Miriam Lumpini back in the day, years ago, and she was
Okay.
doing, these amazing colorful pieces on black on darker skin. And I posted one of them just to remind black friends I had in Scandinavia, because trust me, it's even worse when it comes to like nobody tattoos dark skin here, basically. And some people that do don't know how to do it well and ruin tattoos. Because where will they learn? But anyways, I just posted to say, hey, just a reminder for my black friends, if you're patient and find the correct artist, you may have to travel, but you can get your dream tattoo as well. Immediately, a white female tattoo artist messaged underneath, colorful tattoos don't work in dark skin. This is gonna look like shit in a couple of years. You're just calling us racist for being honest about this. And I'm just like, I didn't call you racist.
No, you're
You
just a
said
fucking
that.
racist. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just a
Yeah.
fucking racist. That's it. That's it.
But I'm just saying there's absolutely something to what you're saying. Like there's so many people that get told to this day that, oh, you have dark skin. Well, you can only get black and gray tattoos, and they're probably not going to look that good. No, whether they're black and gray or colorful or black or complete black work, they can look great if you find an artist that know how to work with it. But also, as some black artists are great at saying, they'd also tell you that it might not look exactly like wood and white skin, but that doesn't mean it's a bad tattoo. As I like to say, it takes two people to decide a tattoo is great. The artist might feel one way about it, and the client another. A tattoo you might have done years ago, you now feel, oh, I was shit at it back then. That could still be that client's favorite tattoo of all time. And that's the other part. A great tattoo is one the client loves. It's an even more great tattoo if the artist loves it too.
And I think too, like, it's been difficult for me, just even putting my work out there because I
Mm.
think I'm so more self-conscious of like, I know that my clients are gonna think, most clients think that most tattoos are great. If you can get it on fucking skin, it's
Well,
a
they
good
don't have
tattoo.
the same
That's what,
expertise to judge it that
they
way,
don't
you
have the
know.
technical things, right? But like when you're posting with your peers in mind, it's
Mm.
like,
But
you
again,
start to
I
be a
mean,
little more critical of yourself and you're like, oh, well,
but
I
I think
could have
that's because people forget the client sometimes. They think too much about other artists gonna like this, and then they overthink the way they did it instead of remembering, well, I did my best.
they
It's
loved it.
great, and the client loved it, aka a good tattoo.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean that doesn't just go for black artists like yourself. That goes for any artist. I think a lot of people sadly mainly think about other tattooers going to think this is well done. And I get it. I get it. There's a lot of comparison, but comparison, as the saying goes, from I think actually the States and the UK, comparison is also the thief of joy.
Yep. That's it.
And over comparing with others,
Good thing.
comparing
Yep.
a little bit and getting inspired can help you grow. Comparing too much can stifle you and hinder you in acknowledging where you are and finding some appreciation for where you are. And I mean, I think you're a good example of somebody that actually does appreciate how far you've come. As you said earlier, you're fucking grateful for where tattooing has brought you to and where you are now, which is an important thing to do. And I think, especially from a marginalized group, that's important to acknowledge too, because else all the stuff you've been through just keeps weighing you down in a way as well.
Absolutely. And I think one piece that like artists tend to forget. It's like, yes, we are artists and we do get the privilege to put our art into the world and bring it to life, but also too, we would not be here without our
No,
clients.
it's the
We
service
would not
industry as
be
well.
here.
It
We would not
it
be
is
here
a
without the
peculiar
people
thing.
who
Yeah.
believe in us and take a chance on us. And so who, I mean, I'm grateful for the people who still want to spend money in this fucking
Mm.
economic crazy time right now. So I really like to focus on the client experience,
Yeah.
like really connecting with them because
Yeah.
man, I damn near could tell you I love you because you helped me pay my damn rent. Like I would not be CeeJ the Artist if it weren't for the people who believed in me and supported and continue to support and
No,
still
then you'd
keep
just be
my name in the
CJ the
room.
crazy lady if you didn't
Yes,
get that.
yes, absolutely. Like
I'm, so, I'm sorry,
the
CJ.
outspoken,
I know
yeah,
this is a
CeeJ
budding
the
friendship, but
outspoken crazy girl. Yeah, no, because
oh man,
that's
sorry.
actually like that. You have hit the nail on the
I'm
head.
so,
You are
I
not
was still a bit of a crash joke, but I'm
yeah,
happy you
you're
took it
not
so well.
offended. No, it's fucking no. Like it's like you know me all my fucking life. It's crazy, but yeah, like that could basically sum it up.
Well, it
And
takes a crazy person to know a crazy person, so.
absolutely, and I think being in a private studio has really shown me that
I
I
mean,
can really,
I look like they gave a dwarf of in Lord of the Rings steroids, like,
yeah.
or growth hormone. Like, I'm
You
not
are
sure. I'm just
handsome.
thank you
No,
very much. I didn't say I wasn't.
oh
See,
yeah,
that's you anti-dwarf racist. I didn't say
yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't handsome.
yeah. Because dwarves don't really have a good connotation to them.
No, I know, I know.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
we can get into
Oh, gotcha. So maybe unpack that.
we
So
can get
maybe
into
unpack that.
fantasy law
So maybe
racism. No,
unpack
no.
that.
We can absolutely get into fantasy law racism with a personal talk later, but there's a lot
Yeah,
of
what's
that
up?
as
What's
well,
that?
which is
What's that?
which is
Yeah.
strange as well. But to end us up, we're already sort of starting on it, but we're sort of getting to the towards the end of the interview of these, and I want to end us off on a light note. We've sort of already gone into a lighter note, but to continue this little nice light note after a quite deep and heavy talk, of course, there's some laughs along the way. Lots of laughs, actually. But what's your favorite? Like, do you have? Is there one? I know it's like picking a child almost, but is there a favorite experience recently from your tattoo profession?
My favorite experience for me. I think it was really when I took a chance on myself and just decided I'm gonna just do the private studio thing. Although
Yeah.
transparently, I'm not a private studio person. I am very communal. I love to be in an iron sharpens iron environment. I miss being in a shop.
So you
But
took a gamble on yourself.
I was able to take a leap and endure and thrive, and it showed me that I am capable. And a
It's
lot of
awesome.
the times I feel like I stifled myself and I held myself back by letting other people's projections or their own fears and insecurities like kind of like carry on to me a little bit. So being able to really step into my power, that's what really made me like, all right, well, I know that I'm a powerful being. My voice matters. My voice is I'm influential and all the things, and I don't mind being. I don't even want to say a martyr. That's a terrible word. I just don't
Yeah.
mind. I just don't mind.
I'm happy you saw that and then went, yeah, because yeah, that's
Terrible word. Terrible word. Trying to find a better one, but just like I don't mind advocating for
being the
those that
vanguard, I would
don't
say.
have a
You
voice.
don't mind going
Yeah,
ahead and being the first one to try and take a stand for this.
talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room because it's not really where there's so creating the safe space, and talking with these other women and listening to their experiences, intersectionality, everything, everything's parallel. We
Absolutely.
can pretty much relate to everything that everyone has gone through. And it's like that fucking sucks. Like that kind of sucks. I'm like, that kind of sucks. Like, I don't want to relate to you on some traumatic shit. Like, I don't, we're not trying to create trauma bonds in this bitch. But like, that's really like, unfortunately, our
Can also,
experience.
but it can be important to some
Yeah,
extent at
absolutely.
least.
Absolutely. It's important because it's highlighting some things that we need to address as a not only just as Black women, but as a fucking community. So
Mm.
eventually we want to invite the men into the conversation. Once we get us established, once
Well,
we get
yeah,
a
of course. You want
for
to get
us,
situated
it's like
in your and get your thing going first. Yeah, of course.
we got to focus on the women first, and then because a lot of women don't even feel comfortable talking to the men about it because they feel like it's pointless or
Yeah,
that
I
it's not
get that.
gonna fall upon deaf ears and shit. Well, I'm like, well, you just gotta say the right shit. and lead by example also.
Yeah.
You have to advocate for yourself, and you have to be firm
Mm.
like on your values and your beliefs. Like I don't like the bullying. I don't like the financial exploitation. I don't like anything that's driven by ego. I know we're always going to have certain level of ego when it comes to being an artist or whatever, but when you're using it for bad
Yeah.
and not good, that's when I have an issue with it. So just
A
being
little bit of ego is good. It's good to have a
a
voice that
little bit.
says, "Hey, you're doing great. You're
Too much
awesome."
is too much of everything
But
is
too
bad.
much is where you get into arrogance.
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
yeah, I just want to create balance. That is what I want to do. I feel like that is my role in the industry to be that voice and to continue to advocate for those for the next generation of artists that look like me or fucking don't. But either way, my community. I want everybody to feel included because our voice matters, what we contribute to the space matters. Like our presence matters. That's why I feel like one way to really like resolve or just kind of like dissolve these barriers is to really like have more Black women in all spaces of the
Yeah,
tattoo industry, like as
no, I agree.
mentors,
I
as
agree.
educators, as shop owners, as lead artists, like having more women that can speak to this experience and advocate for other women. Like
Mm.
that's how we do it.
Absolutely
So
agree. And what a beautiful note to end it on. Now, here at the very end, first of all, thank you so much for being on, CJ. It's been
thank
an
you for having
absolute pleasure to have you on. And please let people know where can they find more CJ and what have you got going on?
You can find more CJ at the letter J, the artist, on pretty much any and everything, all platforms.
I'll
Right
of course
now,
put links in the descriptions and all that stuff,
put
or
links and
at
blah
least
blah
the
blah
ads. I can't promise a hyperlink, but there will be
blah
ad addresses,
blah blah
and
blah blah blah.
if
We
you
like
know a little bit copy paste, you'll be
yeah,
golden.
and right now I'm really just focused on creating more events and activities for the safe space. Right now we're working on the Inkspire mentorship program,
Nice.
pairing the seasoned tattoo artists with the younger tattoo artists, but also having like group or mentorship where we're like having fake skin days where we're all tattooing
Oh,
the same
nice.
subject matter. We'll have different artists come in that will give seminars, but also like yoga days for
Does the group
like
have a social media page or anything?
they do. It is the period safe space with two A's in space um
Nice.
on Instagram right now. We're building. We're building. So we just
Fantastic.
had our first event that went so well. We had
Yeah.
amazing feedback on it, and we have so many people looking forward to the next one. So that's really what I'm working on right now, and just continuing to change the landscape of the industry.
Well, people, I highly recommend you check out CJ and her stuff. And the safe space if you might feel like you either want a mentor or might be want a mentor yourself. And CJ, once again, thank you so much. And to anybody listening in, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this awesome episode with CJ and return to my sub-series Beyond the Gate, where I try to spotlight and showcase the diversity and the beauty of diversity within the tattoo world and community, and try to show what marginalized groups also contribute to this wonderful world of tattoos we have. And I couldn't ask for a better guest to continue the series with than CJ, a black female in the tattoo industry that also tries to do her own best to pay it forward and help others where she might have needed help in the past as well, and trying to form both communities and connections and all that will help others and herself form strong bonds and security nets to help each other. Other than that, CJ also has this amazing look on tattoos, and that has also been recognized by the social sciences, especially psychology and sociology, of how tattoos can help in a way with people's self-perception and in a way be a kind of therapy for people, which I think it's beautiful when people like her with a background in counseling and an education for it try to combine these two specialties of theirs, tattooing and mental health counseling, to see what can come out of it. But enough about that. For the next time, First of all, there's going to be, for the first time ever, a little bit of a break for the podcast. Next episode will be on Valentine's Day, and yes, it is a Valentine's Day special with a returning guest, Jessie Silva, who is bringing along her dear husband this time, Arsenio. So for those that watched this outro, there's a bit of a spoiler ruined for you there, but it's going to be an absolutely great episode. I look forward to you guys seeing it. We're going to be talking a lot about dating as a tattoo artist and how it is to be a mother and a wife as a tattoo artist, as well as how it is with tattoos in respective fields, as Jessie's husband works as a teacher. So it's going to be quite an episode with a lot of stuff to get through, and I look forward to you guys enjoying it. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks.